Right fellas, third attempt. Oh, it's nothing quite like drinking a punk IPA. But I should have some beer on the go and I haven't. And that's because I've been mega busy. And when I'm busy, I obviously can't get into brew beer. Next Saturday I'm brewing beer. It's going to be the beer that I'm going to be drinking over Christmas. It's a bit tight for getting it ready, but just have no time. Just had no time. That seems to happen in the last sort of portion of the year, especially around December time when you're getting everything ready for Christmas. Money's a bit shorter and don't have the time. But next weekend we are brewing up a Christmas beer, or a beer for Christmas. I need to clean up in here. It's a damn disgrace. The mould's back. It comes back every winter. Perils of using an outhouse that's 1 brick thick and no insulation, no damp course or anything like that. So I actually get away with murder in here, keeping things clean. I think because there's quite a draft in here all the time. It's not completely airtight. I think that helps a lot. So I thought I'd get something out there, and that's why I put out the call for a Q&A video. So I left it on the Facebook page, and some people left some comments, so we're going to run through them. Let's rattle through them. So the first one comes from Steve Gasson, and he says, in one of your previous videos you were talking water treatment and that Tony Yates tested it for you. How would we go about finding out the alkalinity and the correct treatment? 4 people thumbed that message up. Now, water treatment is something that I am going to start to delve into. I've not had the time to get going with it. I have got the readouts that Tony gave me somewhere knocking about, and I need to start researching it and moving on forward in that department. So what I will say that's going to probably help you big times is if you go to Tony Yates' YouTube channel, find his video, I'll link it in the description box below, where he starts to talk about water treatments and the properties in water and whatnot, and that is probably going to be where I'm going to start. I'm probably going to contact Harry about the best sort of things to put into the water treatment to combat these readings. That's as much help as I can give you, because I'm learning on that front. Chris Charlton, he's put a message underneath saying either that about the water treatment, or if you could give only one bit of advice for improving brewers, what would it be? Improving brewers, a tip. I would say there's quite a few. I always ask for one, so I'll give the biggest one that I found made the biggest impact on the beers that I was making. The biggest impact I found was when I built the fermentation fridge, and I was able to maintain a fermentation temperature that I wanted. So not around about the fermentation temperature I needed, the exact sort of fermentation temperature that I needed. So as soon as I got the fermentation fridge built, I could set the temperature to like 19 degrees for an ale. I knew it would be around 19 degrees for an ale. If it fermented and sort of gained a couple of degrees, I'm still in that region of like 20, 19 degrees to ferment, and know that it's going to ferment at that no matter what the weather does. Luke Watkins, he says, do you have any dry hopping tips, specific temps for best extraction, single or multiple drop, time in contact? Cheers. So we've got like three things there for dry hopping. Do you have any dry hopping tips? The first tip that I was given, just from sort of being around Harry and watching how he was doing stuff, I would get the beer that's done fermenting and I would siphon it into secondary on top of dry hops. And I can remember going round to his house, I think we were having a barbecue, and he was dry hopping a beer that he'd just done, and he just whipped the lid off, straight to primary, dunked them in, shut the lid. I remember seeing it and thinking, that does seem a lot simpler. Why am I racking into secondary? And he said, well, you know, if I rack it into secondary, I'm increasing the risk of developing an infection or introducing an infection. Everything in the first container, the primary container that's been fermenting, is sanitized, everything's going well in there. So just dry hop into primary. And ever since then I've been dry hopping straight into primary. Specific temps for best extraction. I can't say a definite temp that's going to get best extraction out of dry hop because I haven't given it much thought. But I don't alter the temperature after fermentation's happened. So if I'm set at 19 degrees, I've fermented for a week and it's done, I will just crack the lid to put the high drops in. I'll crack the lid, I'll put the dry hops in, lid back down, and I'll leave it at 19 degrees. I won't alter the temperature until the time's up for dry hopping. Then I crash chill. Single or multiple drop. And time in contact. So two more there. Single or multiple drop, time in contact. So I'm guessing single or multiple drop. I don't know what you're trying to say by that, because obviously if you do a single hop, dry hop, it's going to give you just one flavour. If you do two, it's going to get the best of aromas from both. So at times I've just done a single if that's what the recipe calls for. Most of the time, or a couple of the last brews I've done, I've asked for like Cascade and Mosaic. That's a brilliant combination that I found. The other one was El Dorado and Mosaic on the last beer I did. And time in contact. I used to do a week dry hopping, and then for some reason I started doing like a 5-day dry hop, and I think it was more because if you missed the 7-day dry hop to get her into a keg and you did like a 5-day dry hop and you missed it by a couple of days, you were still sort of in the realms of a week without it going too far, because I don't want to leave it in there, forget all about it, and end up with some sort of grassy note that I don't want. But I think a 5-day dry hop has been working well for me, and I'll probably continue to just dump it in for 5 days. But like I say, if you run over, you're still in the week, the normal. Rob Barstow, you son of a gun. How do you get your beard to be so rich and sexy? Y'all. This is a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, works for the television people, makes the teas for them. Probably you know how I get my beard so sexy like. Harry Reid, he's put, looking for some wiring tips from house to fuse box. Out to the brewery and to the boil pots. I keep melting wires and blowing fuses. Oh my god, with the two elements going on each pot at the same time. I'm using two 2.4 kilowatt elements in each boil pot, upgrading my SSRs to allow for this, as melted the last ones. Yeah. I don't want to give advice on wiring because I don't want to put advice out there and someone else use it and burn the bloody house down or something daft like that. My advice would be, find an electrician to give you the specs, tell him what you want it to run and how you want it to run it, and let him tell you the safe, proper way to get it put in. But very rarely do I have two pots boiling at the same time. Once I'm onto the boil pot, the HLT is done. I don't need it anymore. I don't do double brew days, so I don't have the two pots on at the same time. But I would just say, just to be on safe side, you know, get an electrician in to see what you've done. And then he's put underneath, my PIDs are overshooting quite a bit, 10 degrees on the first temp climb. Once I either stop it or let it cool down, they work fine. The overshoot is a nightmare though. Any advice? So Barry Reid, the same guy with the electrics. PIDs overshooting. Yeah, the PIDs sort of, they do overshoot, and they have to sort of, I think the way they work, because I'm not an electrician, but I think the way they work is they memorize the overshoot for the next time, and so the more you do it, they seem to know where they should be. Mine do overshoot a little bit, not like they used to when I first started, and the way I combat it is put my HLT on and I let it come up to temps, and then I'm getting everything else ready. So when it shoots a couple of degrees, by the time I've got everything ready, it's stabilised itself, and once it's stabilised, it's fine. So I think that's how they work. They just have to know where they should be, and they sort of learn themselves. I could be completely wrong, but I think that's how I've been told before how they work. Neil Jones has put water treatment info please, and if you only had one hop variety for the rest of your brewing life, what would it be? So water treatment info please. Again, video below to Tony Yates. He's doing, I think he's done one video, I think he's doing a series of water chemistry and how to combat the effects of what they put in the water, how to get you right for brewing. So check out Tony Yates, check out his videos. I'm learning because it's all new to me. And the hop variety, if I had one hop variety for brewing for the rest of my life, what would it be? Mosaic. It would have to be Mosaic, I think. Mosaic, after tasting Harry's Blonde, and it's the hop we use in the Coconut IPA, it's just a real tropical, mango-y, sticky hop, and I friggin' love it. Another one from Barry Reed, last one. How important is yeast type for hitting your final gravities, and must I use types of yeast as per beer style? So it's a two-part question. So how important is yeast type for hitting your final gravities? So if you're doing like a normal ale, say you're doing like a 4% pale, 5-6% pale, or an IPA, then using like a USO5, USO4, although the USO4 tends to drop out a bit sooner than the USO5, I've found, you should be good to go with them. It will ferment through to where you have brewed it. So if you've mashed correctly and you've not dropped the temps too much, it will drop final gravity, to where you will need it. If you're doing something like a barley wine or an imperial stout or an imperial IPA where the alcohol is increased, probably need to get a strain of yeast that can cope with higher amounts of sugars, so it can utilize the sugars without getting too tired and dropping out, thus not leaving you too high in your final gravities for the big beers. So I hope that helps. And the second part to this question is, and must I use types of yeast as per beer style? So if you're doing like a saison, you'll want some funk to the saison, you'll want that saison funk, so you use a saison style yeast that will give you them esters when you're fermenting. Same goes for like a Belgian or a wheat beer. If you're doing a wheat beer, you definitely want like a wheat strain, a wheat beer strain of yeast that will give you them banana esters and clovey esters that go with the wheat beers. Same with the Belgian beers, definitely want to use like a Belgian strain which will give you the characteristics. But if you're doing, like I say, a pale, a bitter, an IPA, then I use USO5 and get really good results. So that's all the questions that were down there. I hope that's been helpful. I've enjoyed this Q&A, I have. So I'm gonna probably do more of these if that's what people want. If it's what you want from the video, leave a comment below, and I'll set up another sort of post on the channel. I'll set up another post on the Facebook page, and then we can get the questions rolling again if it's been helpful. So next weekend I should be getting a brew on into the new year. This is going to be kicking off big times. I've already had it cleaned out, I've already had it sort of tested. I've been dragging my heels with it because I've been busy with other shit this year at the back end of the year, but January the Flash Gordon is going to be kicking off again, and I'm not going to run it on the page that's been created. I created like a small page for it. I'm just going to run it off the NewToHomeBrew Facebook page. So if you want to get in on that action, go to the NewToHomeBrew Facebook page, like it and follow and do all that good stuff. And that's it, fellas. That is it. So as always, guys, don't forget to thumbs up this video because you don't want to know. Don't forget to subscribe. There's a little red button down there, so subscribe, clicking your mouse out. It's coming to the next in the video. I look forward to seeing you until next time. I'm out of here.